Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. Today's video is one you've probably been waiting for a while. This is what did the port work done on these Promaxx 290 Roval ports make for power before and after doing these modifications. So we're going to see, and I'll show you flow numbers, and I'll show you some of the measurements, and you'll get to see how much flow difference there was and how did that relate to actual performance on the dyno. So this isn't just someone saying, hey man, I gained this CFM and it should make more. No, I have a dyno number to tell you what it made before and after. So what heads these are the Promaxx, and these are their 290s. This is their, they call them an oval, but in all fairness, if you look at them, they're a roval. They are a small little rectangular, really they're an oval wood that's been made into a rectangular shape. The other heads that do it like this are the AFR, and so is the Edelbrock. But it's a very, very good head. I'm not going to lie, it's a nice head. From the factory, they come with a 110cc chamber, which really helped with the compression ratio. And from the factory, they came with a 225 and a 188 in intake valve. And that's how the first dyno session was run, was exactly that. I didn't modify them at all as far as port work wise. You might be like, whoa, 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 sounds like you're about to pull the wool over my eyes. On the very first dyno run, the only thing I changed was I changed these locks down here. And I'd put a negative 50 thousandths lock on so I can have more spring pressure. Other than that, on the first dyno session, they were completely stock. No valve job, no port work, nothing. Exactly as they came from the factory. This time, what I had done is I'd done a lot of things, because besides this head, I was also comparing it to their 317 heads that I'd modified. So I was trying to do some different things to get some comparisons. So what I did with this head is, one, I cut it out from a 225 intake valve. It's now a 2300. So it's a bigger intake valve. Now I kept a 45-degree valve job on there, and I know if some of you don't know what I'm talking about on that, that's the most common one that most people use. It has a longer longevity. The other head I'll talk about in another video, that one was a different seat angle, but this one's 45 degrees, but I cut it out to a 2300. And you might be asking yourself, why did you do that? Two reasons. One, I was really wanting to see a good comparison between this 290 head, which is small, versus the 317 head, which was big, and see what power differences there were, because now I've got both have the same chamber size. Cutting out to the 2300 intake valve made them both the same size as intake valves, just to see. I also did, which you could tell from here, I did some port work, and I'll describe it to you. It's a little bit different than usual. This is a short runner. So this is the short runner, this is the long runner. Each one was done a little bit different. So on the short runner here, what I did besides cutting out to a 2300 intake valve job, and it's one of my custom cutters, nice job there, I had moved the bowl over this direction and very little on this side. So I did make the bowl just a little bit bigger, not by much. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think it's about, I want to say 30 thousandths wider here, and pretty much just like 15 here, just to kind of clean up the casting. So then when I blended my throat in, it would look proper. That was that on this part that you can see. On this one, which is the long runner, let me move my flashlight over. You can tell I did next to nothing, because that's as cast on this side. And there's your head bolt lump still there. I did next to nothing here and only took out 30 thousandths here. Again, blended the throats, and that's what it was. The throat itself, besides being a 2300 intake valve, it's a 91% throat. Before, with the 225 intake valve, it was a 90% throat. However, that wasn't the biggest change. The biggest change, which can be very hard to see at all on a video, I'm just going to let you know, but I'm going to try my hardest, is what you're looking at is this apex of the short side, which you can kind of tell, but let me back my light up just a little bit so it doesn't blind you. That didn't work worth a damn. Sorry about the cussing. Let me try one more time here. Okay. That didn't work either. You can see that where the line is here. This is the short side's apex. What I was trying to do is do a different shape than what I normally do. And I have to say, it did give some intriguing results that, of course, you can't hardly see on the camera, but maybe you can. You see that? That dark ridge? That's where the actual fuel was coming in. I was trying to see if I couldn't move where that trail was from where it was stock. Unfortunately, I didn't take picture stock. This is the short runner, and maybe you can definitely see it there. You see there? Okay, what I was trying to do is move it, and I do think I managed to accomplish something. I'm not going to give too much away with the shape, because I'm not entirely sure if it even worked right. But it looked like I wanted it to. essentially what I did, I'm just going to kind of give it to you, is I dipped the center. So besides laying back the short side, because the short side was very, 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 very stood up, I laid it back, but more so dipped the center on kind of both. But the idea is maybe I can get the air to come here, because that's actually where your fastest airspeed is in the port. On the flow bench anyway, with a pitot tube, is right at the apex of the short side right here. I was just trying to see if that would actually work. I hadn't had a chance to do it. But how did it look on the flow bench? Well, let's get to that, and then we can show you the dyno numbers. By the way, before I show you these flow numbers, I actually did a more in-depth video of what I did to those cylinder heads in another video, so you can go back and watch that. I just don't want to make this one too long. But let me show you. So here are your flow numbers. Cylinder 1 is the long runner stock. Cylinder 2 is a short runner stock. I'll talk about 3 in a minute. So cylinder 1, long runner stock. Cylinder 2, short runner stock. Cylinder 3, what I did was, before I ever cut to a 2300, I actually wanted to see if I could get the 225 valve, if I just redid a valve job, what it would do. And it did this, which looks really good because it gained quite a bit, 345 to 358 at 7, but it really hurt the low lift flow. So that's why I cut out to the 2300 intake valve and did that work. And as you can tell, it gained. So what you need to be doing is, when I've got the numbers written down here, we're going to compare cylinder 1 to cylinder 5. Cylinder 5 is that runner now ported. So long runner, new 2300 intake valve, and it's port work. And what I did is I wrote the differences in CFM right next to it. So I ignore one, I don't really care. At 200, it gained 2 CFM, 300, 6 CFM, at 400, 3 CFM, at 500, 5 CFM, 600, 13 CFM, 700, 23 CFM, 800, 32, 932, and in 1 inch, 25. Now that's a long runner. Now, real quick, probably should point this out. The engine that this was tested on is a 496. With these heads, it had about 11.2 compression ratio. And the lift on the cam, and it was a hydraulic roller, was only 630. So, in fairness, we're at 630, which is about, right here, 348 now, compared to 334 before. So, at that point, it was 13 CFM better. Now, how about the short runner? So, this is the short runner stock, short runner ported. At 200, gained 4, 300, gained 10, it gained 9 at 400. At 5, it only gained 4. 6, it only gained 4. See, look, it gained so much more at the other one. But then it gained 7 at 7, 17 at 8, 27 at 9, and 1 inch it gained 34. At least in my handwriting, but 30, sorry. I know some of you right now are like, why did you flow it so far up? It doesn't make any difference. That's pointless. You only have a 630 lift cam. I would highly encourage you to keep watching in later videos when I show you the flow numbers from the 317 heads, because I killed everything except the peak. And guess which one did better? Yeah, the 317s. But anyway, here's the exhaust. The exhaust did get redone. Let me kind of explain why. I just redid the exhaust valve job, just put my radius cutter in, because I figured since I'm redoing the intake valve job, I might as well redo the exhaust. No port work. This is just valve job. So this is stock. This is me trying a different valve. It didn't work. And then I just did this one. So if I look, it lost 4 CFM at 2, lost 1 there at 3, then gained 7, gained 4, gained 2, gained 3, gained 9, no gain, and 4. So overall, as you could tell, it's pretty much gained everywhere. So it's a solid win as far as it looks like on the flow bench. Some of you are going to ask about, well, CFM is the only thing. Velocity makes the difference. Definitely have a point there, but it's not everything either. So one of the things I did was, on the heads before, this is from the Big Block Chevy book that's no longer available unless you get the PDF. So if you get the PDF bundle, which is on my website, wengines.com, you'll see a link to my online store. You can purchase this as a PDF, not the printed version. They're sold out. Won't be printing anymore. We're done with it. This right here has all the measurements from the head stock, so I can compare those to what's been done before. So just for fun, I did this, because people talk about the coefficients of discharge. In other words, how much air is going through the area, which the smallest area, if you can kind of think of it this way. On this head, if we look at the numbers here, switch hands, the smallest CSA was actually at the valve, because my pinch area was 3.29 stock. So what I did was 2.25, that's the valve size, which isn't the smallest. The throat is actually smallest. So but it doesn't really matter if this was 2300, 2250, and both had the same throat size, it still has the same velocity there at the throat. And I mean, if they flowed the same. So the throat's really the more important, not the valve size. So anyway, this was 89.5, which measured 2.01 inches in diameter. This gives you a 3.17 CSA. In other words, that area right there at the valve throat is 3.17. I did not remove the stem. If I take the CFM, of the max CFM of the head flowed stock, which was 345, and I divide it by the area that it had, it does 108.8 CFM per square inch right there at the valve. Now I'm ignoring this curtain area, and I know you guys are already going to be putting comments in there. I'm just giving this for fun. So there's that. When the 2300 intake valve went in there, it had a 90.8% throat, which is 2.09 inches in diameter. That gives you 3.42 CSA. So yeah, it did gain more area at the valve. And 3.42 now made it bigger than this. That made the push rod pinch then became the restriction, not the valve anymore. So it moved it, okay? If I do it this way, now remember they flowed differently. So 345 on the stock one, it did it both on the long runner and the short runner. The best flow on the long runner was 369. So 369 divided by 3.42, it does 107.8 CFM per square inch. But if you look at the short runner, it did 374, which is 109.3. So it actually, on the long runner, is moving less air through the same area, like air per area, but not the short runner. It's actually moving more for those that are just into that geeky nerd stuff. I know somebody like, did you measure the velocity with the pitot tube? Nope, didn't have time. So you can actually use measurements to figure this stuff out. I ain't got time for that. But this is just what the flow bench said. What did the dyno say? Okay, so here we go. Unfortunately, I did not print the right graph to show you the comparison. So what I did is I ended up writing down all the pluses and minuses. So bear with me as this. So just to give you an idea, in the book, this is where we started off with. This was the Promaxx 290s, 454O intake, and this is what they did stock. So I took these numbers and then I compared them to the ones now that's modified. This was also tested, and I should point it out, with a 1-inch open spacer. Both of them have that on there. Both have the same carburetor, 1000 CFM, 4150 Pro systems, exact same. So the only thing that was changed was the cylinder heads. So if we look in the modification to them anyway. With this single plane, we get these numbers. Now, if you notice, how come you don't have the differences here at 37 to 4,000? Because when I initially did it, we didn't collect that data on those early runs, so it's not there. So it may show more information, I just don't have it. So we look at 4,100, it was down, I'm gonna zoom in here, 12 horsepower, 42 is down 7, at 43 it's down 3, at 44 it's down 2, but look, by 4,500, then it's all over. Gain 8, gain 5, gain 11, gain 9, gain 6, gain 8, gain 10, gain 13, 14, 14, 12, 13, 16, 17, 19, 21, 23. And again, I don't have this data here because I didn't record it here. So, below 4,400 RPM, judging by what it's doing here, it looks like it's trending where a loss. So that larger intake valve and the larger port itself, the port itself only got bigger at the bowl and the short side, and that's it. So it wasn't up the stream at all. But look at the way it's trending. It's looked like it's going to be a loss at the lower RPMs. You're like, obviously, because you made the port bigger, it lost velocity, so you lost velocity down here. But then it gains so much more power here. But before you're typing that, wait till I show you the next thing. So it looks like a solid gain there. But if you just did it from this one test, you would leave out a lot of things. That's why I tested multiple things, and one of them was this. This is those 290 heads, but now we're testing with an RPM air gap intake. Guess what I did? With the modified heads, I did the same thing. Now watch. Luckily, we had recorded all the way at 3,700 RPM for this test to start off with. So I have data from down here. Look at this. So this is the differences I'm showing you. So ported head, this is with a dual plane intake. Same dual plane intakes on here. The only thing that changed was the head. Look at this. 3,800, it lost 2, which could be just the way you load the dyno. 39, no change. 4,000, no change. 41, no change. 42, no change. 43, no change. 44, no change. Then look, 4,500. Gain 1, gain 2, gain 2, gain 2, gain 4, gain 4, gain 4, gain 5, gain 5, gain 5, gain 6, gain 7, 9, 9, 9, 11, 12, 17, and probably would have kept going. So that velocity thing, totally agree with you, but if you just looked at this and you're like, that head lost low end power, did it now? And maybe only did it with one intake and not the other. My thought on this is, with the single plane, because it actually can flow more air than a dual plane, it's not the engine itself's getting its air requirements that it needs. So velocity becomes more important at the lower RPMs. So when it's down here, the unported head already had enough air to keep up with it. So me adding the extra CFM just made the port slower. So in these lower RPMs where it had enough airflow, you just reduce the velocity and it lost power and torque. Once it actually needed more airflow, that's when it starts taking over. With the dual plane, the heads could never, in stock form, it still wasn't feeding enough air for what it needed. So now I'm adding more air and it kind of negates the loss of velocity, and that's why it showed nothing until when it's like, now I absolutely need more air, and it gains. Now that's just me talking. I could be completely wrong with that, but I'm going to go with that theory. So there's some of it, but I want to show you one more thing. This was the difference between the two not the before and after of the heads. This is different. So this is like a preview for the next video. That 290 that's modified right here. The black line is the 317s, which I'm going to do another video and show the difference between it before and after. This is the difference. So one port, by the way, is this port right here, the 290s, which are probably like 295, almost 300 CFM, 300 cc's now. The 317s are still 20 cc's larger. Velocity makes more torque down low. Does it? Nope. 317's beating it everywhere except for right there. And pulling away. By the way, the difference is 5 horsepower. Good news is, though, what you're looking at here, it still made 702 horsepower. This was the 4150. These 290 heads, which I don't have I might have it somewhere here. It's probably buried. I'm not going to bother. I'll do a different video. These 290 heads, when we put which is actually from this, when we put the 454O intake on it, which was this one right here. Yep. But we put a spacer so that we could run an HVH 4500 Dominator carburetor on it. That's what got this power. So this is the best it did, was using that intake on the 290s with an HVH 4150 to 4500 adapter, running the Dominator carburetor, got it this. 720 horsepower. Really stout. Really, really good combination there, especially for as small as this cam is. But yeah, that's the best it could do. That's doing the same thing we did with the 317 head. So even though it says 701, it actually makes 720 when we ran the Dominator on it. So yeah, it was definitely worth doing. Anyway, I hope you got something out of this video. I probably gave you way too much information, and some of you are already like, you did something wrong. Maybe, because I make mistakes all the time. So it was just something fun, wanted to try. I would have been really, 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 really curious to see what the solid roller would have done with these. So for instance, this was a hydraulic roller, 630 lift cam. It was a 243, 247, things small, small, small. I really would have liked to have seen what the solid roller would have done, which was a 750 lift, actually 774 lift. And it was like 249, 261. I wondered if we could have got with the 290 head to hit, 750 would have been really, really great. Because remember 725. I think with the other cam, maybe would have got there. Maybe we would have lost some low end torque, but that'd have been a good test. Just didn't happen. But anyway, if you want to see any of this stuff, so if you want these sheets sent to you, because for those viewers of mine, I'm not making a book of this second dyno session. I'm not at all. I'm not even making a PDF of it. The only way you can get these is if you sign up to be a channel member. And right now, if you buy any book, besides this book's no longer available, if you buy any of my books, bought just one, you can get a channel membership for $25. And then what will happen is, because I've done it several times now, I'll text you all the dyno sheets, not just these two, all of them that I have for it. So, but otherwise, they're not going to be available in PDF and they'll never be sold. But the only way you'll see it is this video. Well, guys, I hope you guys got something out of this. I apologize if I made any incorrect statements during this. I'm no Superman, obviously. Remember, I don't port cast iron. I don't know anybody that does. And you guys take care.